Hello everyone, how's it going? Eric here, and today we're going to talk about a cute little girl that wears a hat. That's right, it's Madeline, she may be very small. We're not talking about Madeline, we're talking about Hat Girl, because we're talking about a hat in time. Because, I'm just talking about a hat in time, okay, get over it. Now, a little while ago, I actually got to sit down and talk to Jonas Kalev, and yes, I do sit down sometimes. My life isn't all about bouncing around and jumping intros. Hello everyone! And this chat that I have with Jonas, who is the developer behind Hat in Time, was actually rather interesting. He let me know some stuff like how the game is coming along, and he also went into some of the controversies and problems that the game had with coming to the Switch in the first place. Some interesting stuff that no doubt is going to get some heat. Now I do want to go into that because there's nothing like a little spicy controversy to heat up the morning. But before I do go into that, it might be nighttime for you actually. Before we do go into that, what I do want to talk about is what the hell is a Hat in Time, because some of you might just not even know. So first of all, it was a game that came out in 2017. It was a Kickstarter, and a rather successful one, may I say. It's done really well for itself. It is a 3D platformer, and I don't know what that was. A 3D platformer in the vein of like Banjo-Kazooie, or maybe Ukulele if you want to go with something that's taken that formula and gone, let's modernize this and have a worse reception. But A Hat in Time actually had a really good reception. The reason we're talking about this today, and the reason the spotlight of news has just gone down on A Hat in Time, is because there was a DLC that came out late last year. It's called Seal the Deal, and it's a pun and I love it. But that's not the important part. The important part is this Seal the Deal DLC wasn't meant to be coming to consoles, it was just going to be a PC release. Now, because of that conversation that I mentioned I had with Jonas earlier, I had this little inkling inside of me going, something's going on here, because the Switch version, or this conversation I had was at the end of last year as well. And that's when, like, we all knew that this DLC wasn't coming at that stage, and I was like, okay, cool. How's the game coming along? And Jonas goes, well, the game is in like the final stages of development. It's not that far away. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then it's been a little while. And I'm thinking, what's taking so long? If they were in those final stages, why hasn't the train arrived at the station yet? What maintenance did they have to perform along the way? And the maintenance was the DLC. Now the DLC actually makes a huge, ginormous, I think that's a word. It makes a lot of sense coming to the Switch. And the reason is, one, is this 2-player support. However, common misconception here, that 2-player support on PC was just a free update. It wasn't part of the DLC pack, so they're really just bringing the free update over to the Switch as well. Where the DLC pack comes into it, and by the way, if you're wondering, this DLC pack is only $5, so it's actually a pretty, well, it was on PC anyway, it's actually a pretty cheap DLC pack. But where the DLC pack comes into it, it's the Seal and Deal part of it. So it comes with the Arctic Cruise, which is an extra chapter that's been added on top of the game for you to play through. And considering like $5 for an extra chapter probably wouldn't be bad value in the first place. But then you're also getting this Death Wish mode, which is basically, is it called Death Wish? Yeah, Death Wish. Which is basically a really hard mode of the game. It has more difficult stages, bosses, things called time rifts, which I have no idea what they are, but it all sounds very hard and very much like if you just want to punish yourself with the game and really struggle through it, here you go. The other interesting thing that they've slammed into this DLC is this nostalgia badge. So obviously there's some customization options there, but there's this badge of nostalgia that everyone wears, including myself. I've got one right here. The badge of nostalgia, more correctly called the nostalgia badge, is actually, it turns the game to look like a 64 game. The cool thing here is they didn't just say, all right, scale it down to whatever an N64 runs at. I don't know, my microwave has more pixel density than the N64. But they did actually have to go the extra mile to make it look like an N64 game. My chat with Jonas, he revealed that the game is actually more intense. It's harder for it to run in this N64 mode than it is to not run in it. So that kind of shows that they're not just scaling it down here. The scales are all natural, kind of like mine. And now is the time that we get to talk about controversy. And I'm going to tell you the truth here. I don't really want to talk about it, but I'm going to because I feel like everyone should try to be over this and literally over this. To understand the controversy, we have to understand what the problem was in the first place. And that is that Unreal Engine 3, which is what the game runs on, is really hard to get a game from that onto the Switch. It's just not native. And so basically, this is a small team of indie developers, and when they come up with this task of we want the game on the Switch, they tested it and said, nah, this ain't happening. This is impossible. Nope. Now this all happened when port package was huge. I don't know if you remember this. There was this phase that everyone on the internet would be going around to every developer, bring this game to Switch, bring this game to Switch, bring this game to Switch. We want everything on Switch, and like, we're still kind of in that stage, but I feel like we're at the stage where developers are like, yes, we want everything on Switch as well. We know. But like at this stage, everyone was kind of like, still kind of just taking a bit of a backseat on the Switch and saying, I'm not 100% sure, or not everything was coming to Switch. That's the point. Now, of course, if your game can't come to Switch, you're gonna have some disappointed fans. At the end of the day, that's all it is though, some disappointed fans. The problem is the way they handled the social media to this. Whoever was handling the social media basically didn't just say, no, it's not coming to the Switch. They kind of were a little bit snarky about it, I think, in the way that they said it. So people took that very negatively. Understandably. I'd be like, if that was me and someone said like a snarky response to me, I'd be like, ugh, but it also depends on the way I was acting to them in the first place. This wasn't the best publicity stunt, but at the end, it kind of just blew over. You know, at the end of the day, it's just that it is what it is. It happened and it went. Until they announced the Switch version. And then like, this all resurfaced. All of a sudden, it's like, what happened to these snarky remarks, everyone? Hey, Jonas, what up, buddy? Now, I can actually totally sympathize with people who got upset at this stage because, let's face it, if they said the game wasn't coming to Switch, it was a flat no. And not only that, but like the snarky no, and then all of a sudden it comes to Switch and you went and bought the game on PC and you're like, well, I would have waited and bought it on the Switch if you just had told me there was maybe a chance, or like that here's the problem, or you know, whatever. Even if it wasn't a straight no, people feel lied to. And that's, I think that's the point of this, is that one, if you're ever like doing anything like what they're doing or what I'm doing, honesty is the key. To be honest. Honesty is the key. Why do you think the internet wasn't mad when Metro Prime 4 came out and they were straight like, we're scrapping and having to restart development? No one was pissed and mad because they were being honest. People appreciate honesty. They can see honesty and they really appreciate it. If you ask me, like you guys do, why aren't you doing streaming yet, Eric? I give you the honest answer. Actually, I need to touch on that on the end screen here, but like, I just give you an honest answer because at the end of the day, me trying to beat around the bush, it's just gonna hurt me in the long run. And that's what they did to themselves here. They hurt themselves in the long run. All that said and done though, there becomes a time where you just gotta, in the great words of Frozen, let it go. Let it go, let it go. A hat in time isn't that bad anymore. To me though, Jonas says it himself, he regrets what actually happened. In fact, he even said that if he could go back and change what actually happened there, he would. Of course he would. I mean, personally, yeah, I've probably lashed out at someone because I've just been in a bad mood that day. Who knows, maybe they were in that same position. I know it's hard to excuse it when they're a business and you've got to have your business face on all the time, but at the end of the day, they were also an indie developer and they just had their indie developer face on and that slipped for a day. And I feel like they made a mistake. So I guess I just have to prove it to us going forward, which isn't really looking good considering the Seal the Deal DLC. But I feel like that's a little bit different. They said that wasn't planned for, they didn't say it's an outright no, it'll never happen. I think if you don't want to personally buy this game because you don't like what they did, that's cool. Like, you have your own moral compass, you just gotta decide where it lands. I just don't believe in going around telling other people, don't buy this game because they said something snarky on Twitter, because, you know, have you been on Twitter lately? So if you're one of those people who are just kind of sweating bullets about buying the game twice, let me end on a story here about how I already have 2 copies of the game for some silly reason. And so if I bought it on the Switch, which I probably won't be at this stage because of this, I would end up with 3 versions. So back when I was actually doing this interview for A Hat in Time and I was a up and coming game, whatever, let's call myself a journalist, because anyone can call themselves a journalist these days. And I was up and coming and ready for anything, but I needed some gameplay footage to go with my interview because it was going to go on YouTube and I wanted something for people to be able to watch as they're listening to us talk. And so I needed this gameplay footage and I went searching for it and I thought, well, there's no just gameplay footage by the developers that I can use just freely, and I can't just go steal someone else's gameplay footage. So my kind of choices were to either, like obviously I didn't own the game, so my choices were to either buy the game or go ask someone else if I can use their footage, which I really didn't want to do. So I thought, all right, I'm just gonna cave in. I'm gonna buy the game for PC because it was a little bit cheaper, and then we'll capture the footage from there. So I did that, I put it on my PC, and it turns out that running my PC and the game capture software at the same time made the game kind of just chug down to a slow dribble. It was a point where I couldn't even capture footage that I just purchased the game for. So that sucked. And at this stage, I was already so deep in, and I'm like, what am I gonna do now? I'm like, well, I can buy it on PS4. I know I can capture the footage on there with my capture card. So I was so deep in, I just ended up buying it again on the PS4, which to be honest with you all, was just kind of dumb. Like, it was really dumb of me. I'm an idiot. I'm truly an idiot for doing that, because like, at the end of the day, I was doing an interview, not for myself, for someone else, and wasn't going to get anything out of this. So why did I bother purchasing the game 2 times? And the truth is, I was just kind of stuck in my own little bubble, just thinking that anything could be the next big thing for me, that this is going to be what, this could finally pay off. It was never going to pay off. It may have got some views, but it wasn't going to be my make and break for my career. It wasn't worth spending all that money on. And yeah, it's just kind of become a little bit of a regret of mine. It's like, why did you bother with that? Why did you do that? I basically did it just to make myself look better. And I guess what I'd hope anyone who's up and coming and thinking about taking away from this is, just think about what you're doing and what it really matters in the grand scheme of things. Always kind of take yourself out of that bubble. It's hard to do, but do it, because you will pay for it in the long run and you'll just kind of regret it in the future. Anyway, that is a really long story as to why I won't be buying the game for a 3rd time for the Switch, because yeah, I do not need the game 3 times. And I think that's kind of going to do it for today. So if you enjoyed what happened here today, don't forget, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, be very much appreciated. And for great Nintendo entertainment, remember, you can count on me. Hello everyone, welcome to the end screen. That's not how I do my end screen openings. For today's end screen, I just want to quickly mention that all you guys who have suggested the streaming stuff, I'm definitely putting that at the front of my to-do list. I just need to organize a day to go downtown and do a little bit of research before I actually get any equipment. So it's at the forefront of my mind, but just give me a bit of time. So thank you very much and goodbye.